streams of fried chicken sandwiches. Welcome to the Completely Unnecessary Podcast for Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. That's Ian.
That's me.
I'm Pat. On the show today, what we're talking about? Talking about Reggie Fils-Aimé dishing about his time at GameStop. Michael Pachter saying PlayStation is doomed. The Cowabunga collection. And a lot more. Ian, how was your weekend?
Ooh, my weekend was good. It was definitely a good weekend. I want to take this opportunity to remind everyone to get their brackets in. You have until Thursday morning. Get your NCAA bracket in. Don't forget.
Ian's big on March Madness. I can't get him to watch an NBA game for the past couple of years for some reason, but he's big into March Madness.
So yeah, get those brackets.
Who's your favorite? You got a favorite?
I think this year wasn't like super happy with my bracket, but it's just how it turned out. I think I have Gonzaga going all the way.
Should we do a Pat versus Ian bracket?
We should.
Fun.
We always do brackets over at Extra Napkins. We've got 18 people in this year. It's easy to set up. We should probably set up a CU podcast one at some point.
When does it start?
Brackets have to be in by Thursday morning.
It's kind of late, but we can do a personal one.
I don't know.
I'm just curious who does better. Is it just a website you do it for free and just put it in?
Yeah, I'll send you the link for the Extra Napkins one since there's lots of competition this year.
Okay. Is there money involved?
No, John and I are sending whoever wins a signed basketball because we're sports pros.
Okay.
Yeah. You could have a signed basketball.
I saw this movie called Margin Call that somehow got into my feed. It's on Netflix, thankfully, because when I looked it up last week, it wasn't, and I checked Netflix the past couple days, and it was on there. Margin Call is a 2011 movie. It takes place over 24 hours in an investment firm. Has to do with the housing crash. So it's this fictionalized version of what happened in reality, where over a 24-hour period, they discover the party's over, all our mortgage-backed securities are worthless. We got to be the first to dump this shit. The end is coming. We have to save it. So it's interesting. It's a bunch of great actors: Jeremy Irons, Kevin Spacey, Demi Moore's in a smaller role. Simon Baker, who's great in The Mentalist. I don't know. See Simon Baker in anything. He's a great actor. Simon Baker.
I don't know who that is. No idea.
The guy who played Spock, the new Spock, Quinto, is in it. He's the guy who puts the numbers in and sees, oh shit. Stanley Tucci is a guy who gets fired in the day that he was going to discover.
Stanley. We all love Stanley.
It's a great ensemble. It's movies that don't get put out in theaters that much anymore, where it's just 90% of the movies in the office, or they just oh shit, it's all about what do we do about this, and the end is here, and it's seeing people's various reactions to this happen. Great movie. Great movie. And I read it was a first-time director directing all these top-end actors in this, and I'm wow, they did a great job. This was their first time directing something like that, and yeah, it was very interesting to see it. What's his name? Played Visions in it as one of the traders.
Slappy Andrews,
the Brit.
Yeah,
Slappy Andrews.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting, Ian. If I wasn't an idiot, I'd have the Margin Call IMDb up in front of me so I can tell you about the movie more. If I was prepared. Yeah, it's an investment bank, and it takes place over. So literally, it goes from end of day on one day discovery. By the end of the day, the next day, the market's destroyed because once they started selling it and selling off their stuff at pennies on the dollar, the word gets out that something's wrong, and then that's almost literally what happened. I forget what happened. One or two firms discovered it, and they didn't get killed as much as everyone else did back in, what was that, 2008? 2007? It was 2008. 2007 or 8, around there. Margin Call, check it out. It's on Netflix, and yeah, I never heard of the movie before. Paul Bettany, that's Slappy. Yeah, he's in it. Like I said, great fucking cast all around.
Nice.
And it comes down to actors acting. They're all most of the action is people sitting around tables discussing and getting the strategy and getting pissed about what's happening, which probably happened somewhat in reality. It probably wasn't over a day, but it was realizing, oh, we're trading worthless shit, and it's over. It's fucking over. And that's what most of the system became at that point. They were greedy, and you ruin the economy because of that.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So it's complicated. You can watch The Big Short. They explain it as well. There's probably a better way to explain it with The Big Short, but they go out of their way to explain it in this movie as well in ways, because obviously they know what they're doing, but they got to explain to the audience like what the fuck's happening. Yeah, that's your homework. Go watch it. You never heard of Simon Baker? Really?
No.
I'm surprised about that.
Looking him up right now. Let's look up old Simon E. Baker.
Simon Baker. He's The Mentalist.
Yeah, never seen this man in my life.
Yeah, it's a murderer's row of actors in this movie, basically, and that's what makes a good movie.
You say that right as I say I've never seen this man in my life.
Simon Baker. Okay, I know him from The Mentalist. He's not in a lot of stuff.
Simon Lucas Baker, do you, buddy?
SLB.
SLB.
That's what I call him there. We did discuss, unfortunately, the passing of wrestler Scott Hall.
Yeah, bummer to hear. I got worried when he broke his hip, because they always say when you get old and you're in bad shape, breaking your hip is a death knell. Sad to see him go so suddenly, I guess, is the way to put it. Especially always sad in wrestling to see these guys kind of have their redemption arc come back from their troubles. Scott Hall famously had all sorts of, problems outside of the ring, and him and Jake the Snake, not to make this about other people, but him and Jake the Snake started doing yoga with DDP and, got their health back. They got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
And these are people who were really making great strides in turning their life around. And, I'm glad Scott, it seemed like, got to a much better place before he left everyone. But it still, with all the bumps, with all the damage they do to their body, it still seems like that was sudden and unexpected. But
well, he was a massive alcoholic, Scott Hall.
Yes,
so that
destroys your
carried
body
him over the decades.
And this really hit me today because I didn't know how old he was, but he's 63. He was 63 when he passed away. My dad is 61. Sting was 62 taking that bump through those frickin' tables. Just shows that, like, how you take care of your body, when you're younger, drastically affects what you can do and what your quality of life is going to be when you get older.
Yeah. Scott Hall, he started. He was on the come up with AWA, which was the Midwest, I guess, competitor to WWF.
Gagne wanted him to be the next Hogan.
Oh, see, I didn't know, because he was tall guy. He was like 6'6", good worker, always pretty safe and quality worker. He put on the 5-star ladder match, 2 ladder matches with Shawn Michaels in the mid '90s, so helped to revolutionize wrestling to that, and obviously the NWO stuff starting in '96 was big. And Scott Hall to me was always like part of the transition to the new generation from the old. He started in '92. Raw started in early '93, so he was always that guy that, okay, we're done with the old, here comes the new for the '90s. Like there was one of those guys, like him, and then Bret Hart's single push was like the two things to me. And he was a great heel, and then obviously he turned face with the 1, 2, 3 Kid, one of the earlier only things I remember from like Raw when they held it at the old place in where the fuck that was in Manhattan was that one of the
early feuds that was one of the early feuds on Raw that was actually a storyline and a feud and wasn't just squash matches.
Because Raw sucked. Raw sucked.
Raw was miserable.
The first couple years of Raw were terrible.
It was literally just squash matches.
Maybe one good match. You got like one good match.
Right.
Like that's what it was, and that was that turned him face eventually against DiBiase. Not going to postulate, but Scott Hall killed someone in self-defense when he was very young.
Yeah, well, yeah, and he said in 2011 he said that he's suffered from PTSD ever since.
So I'm not saying that's why he drank, but like contributing factor probably.
Certainly a contributing. Yeah.
So that, and obviously the wear and tear in your body of wrestlers, and I feel bad for him, and obviously his friends, like his buddy Kevin Nash forever.
Yeah, I don't follow a lot of these people a lot, but I do feel bad for Kevin Nash is clearly hurting.
Oh yeah, they're best forever.
His posts have been very, very emotional over the past few days.
My pal Stephen Guerreri, who wrote for SmackDown for several years, was a head writer of SmackDown until I think he quit a couple years ago. He tweeted, "Rest in peace, Scott Hall. I had the good fortune of working on his 2014 Hall of Fame speech. I was a huge fan and requested to be his writer. We meant to discuss his speech, and he'd done his research. Having watched a bunch of prior Hall of Fame speeches, he concluded everyone talks way too much." With Hall of Fame speeches, there's no real time limit, so inductees generally soak up the spotlight as long as possible. But Scott didn't want to drone on and on. He wanted his words to have impact and leave the audience wanting more. He laid out his speech. I helped with structure, but made very few suggestions. He didn't need to. It was all there. Then we BS for the next hour. He ended up telling a bunch of crazy, hilarious stories that would never have made air anyway. He seemed to be in a good place. Only took 4 minutes for him to give an instant classic Hall of Fame speech. Just before his go-home line, the emotion of the moment overwhelmed him. It's usually cut out of clips shared on Twitter now, but it instantly conveys how much wrestling and the fans meant to him. Working with him was one of my favorite moments with from WWE. I've been warned ahead of time that he might be difficult. He was the complete opposite. Bad times don't last, bad guys do. The thing about Scott Hall, when you hear stories and think about him, very smart about wrestling and the business and was not selfish at all. That's what I take away from him. He put people over.
It always seems to crash in the face of the other people that he associated with.
Yeah, like Shawn Michaels was an asshole. Didn't want to put anyone over. Always wanted to spotlight.
Shawn Michaels was always an asshole. I mean, Nash was not always considered. I mean, Nash was another guy who, like, you look at him now and you read about him, and it seems like it's a dude who's trying to make some rights. But he did not Hogan. He did not associate with people who actively cared about bringing up the younger generation. But Hall would go and put people over. There's a story going around today about him putting over I don't know. I can't remember the name now. It's slipping my mind. Put over a young Japanese wrestler that he really liked in 2001, and that it's one of the biggest Japanese wrestlers now. Just was like, hey, what can we do with him? And they were like, you can do whatever you want. And he was like, can I put him over? I like the guy. And they were like, sure, go for it. And now he's one of the biggest wrestlers in Japan.
Well, the 1, 2, 3 Kid thing was big.
Yeah. And he did it with 1, 2, 3 Kid too. I guess the Japanese thing, I think he actually recreated the finish of whatever the 1, 2, 3 Kid match was, the moonsault.
Yeah, he went over clean.
That first match.
Even though that was an awful idea to bring NWO into WWE, he lost cleanly to Stone Cold at the WrestleMania.
Someone posted a GIF. They were like, no one sold the stunner better than Scott Hall, and he literally flies like 15 feet in the air. After he gets hit with it, he just pops back up.
Because originally that was good. They wanted to do, I believe they wanted to do Stone Cold versus Hogan. Right. For that instead of The Rock. And obviously that would have been enormous. And it's one of the things that should have happened at some point, but Stone Cold.
Not as glaring of an error as Sting never wrestling The Undertaker.
No, but that you had a couple of years where when Hogan came back and Stone Cold was injured, but like kind of retired, he could have fought him. But now Stone Cold's come back at 57 to fight Kevin Owens instead of he could have fought Hogan. He could have fought anyone else over the past. He should have fought CM Punk 8 years ago.
I like Kevin Owens, but it's just it's a weird thing.
That's a non-feud.
Yeah.
They actually built the CM Punk thing a little bit back like 8 years ago. Stone Cold even said we good to work with him. That would have been a great feud. And now it's going to be Kevin Owens, which means, Ian, money conquers all. Yeah. Put enough zeros on that and enough commas and you get in there. But anyway, back to Scott Hall. Rest in peace, Scott Hall. Obviously touched a lot of people's lives. Great personality. And my favorite wrestler to use in WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game with those combos.
Oh, yeah. No, I think he was my favorite, too.
He was my favorite. Discovering those combos, one of the good things about those games. New replicate machines, Ian. Probably should have reorganized this, but New Wave Toys. We love the mini replicates, Ian.
We do. They've announced basically they are doing Space Ace, and they are doing what they call an overhaul version of Dragon's Lair. I can't honestly tell you what the major difference on the overhaul version of Dragon's Lair is, except for the fact that it has the hot pink tea molding.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
But the Space Ace cabinets are cool, and there's 2 versions of them. Space Ace was commonly sold as a conversion cabinet
to the original
Dragon's Lair. So there is a one that looks like Dragon's Lair, but with all the Space Ace conversion stuff on it, the marquee, the overlay. You can tell because of the shape.
Yeah.
And then there is the standalone Space Ace cabinet, which I believe was much harder to find, which I really like because it like the Dragon's Lair cabinet, it too has a fairly unique look to it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, interesting. Not a lot to say on them, but like I said, I not a promo. I have a Replicate. I love it. They do a really good job.
So what's this variant? The overhaul one on Dragon's Lair? What's it?
Literally all I can see is it has pink T molding.
There's one that doesn't though. There's one
that's the standard one. I think it's just a reissue of the standard one, and then the one with the pink T.
It's
molding.
basically a reissue. Okay.
Yes.
Because yours, it says had multi-speaker audio reproduction, illuminated marquee. So it's like
it's the same. Yeah, I can't really tell what the difference.
It's so well they're making more of them. I wish maybe they'll remake some of the other older ones.
I would love a Replicate Centipede. If they redid that, I would absolutely buy it.
It's a great little thing. And then remember they do the mini controllers. They did the mini Street Fighter in 1942, 43.6. They were nice enough to send me that one, the 43 there. No, they look great. And you got 10 days for the VIP early access pre-order on there. Nintendo's Universal Park in the good old USOA is coming next year, Ian. Yep.
The US version of the Japanese park is going to open sometime in 2023. It's going to be here before we know it. I was excited about Super Mario Land World, whatever. And then I started to like see some of the stuff, like the production shots. I was like, okay, it looks cool, but I don't need to like rush to get there to check it out. Because it's small, you walk around, you're over it in a few hours. But then I actually watched a YouTube video clip of someone at the Japanese park, and it got my interest peaked again. Like it's themed very, very well. Like I would love to just go and walk around for a little bit. So, yeah, 2023.
Is it going to be entirely like the Japanese one?
I have a feeling they're going to probably just recreate the Japanese.
Maybe a little more room.
Maybe a little bit more room since they probably are working with a little bit more room.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it's probably going to be a pretty close copycat.
Digital walkthrough, completely interactive. Yeah, it'll be probably the same things there. Speaking of,
you know what's open right now?
Yeah, what's up right now, Ian?
You know what's open right now? UltimateNintendo.com is open.
You skipped. I was going to talk about the Star Wars Hotel.
Oh, did you pop that up?
Yeah,
there?
because it makes sense to segue real quickly into it.
I was already working on the transfer, Patrick.
But you even said, speaking of things that are open, Star Wars Hotel is open, is doing poorly.
And it's I think it's hilarious that it's doing poorly.
We talked about this before. What a bad idea this was.
This is dumb. And it wasn't like me trying to shit on people who would find it interesting. Like, I get it, but it's you're not dumb for being interested in this. This is just a dumb idea because it's extremely expensive and they're never going to find enough people. And as cool as it sounds to like be like, oh, you're going to go on adventures and shit in this staycation 2-day hotel thing. It's going to be a bunch of fucking, it's going to be summer camp for a bunch of mid-40s nerds. You know, as Disney employees are like, okay, everyone over here, and then everyone waves their lightsaber over to one side of the room, and then you do, I don't know, state-sanctioned fucking crafts. I can't.
Well, no, Ian, you're going to have stormtroopers versus the resistance.
State-sanctioned craft.
Because it's no longer rebellion, it's resistance. Because I guess that sounds more family-friendly. I'm not big into being down on Disney for kidifying Star Wars, but they have in some areas. And that's one weird thing where I think, why is not the rebellion still? But whatever. You can take the side of the fascists if you want as part of this experience, or you can be part of the resistance. I do know that. You can be a stormtrooper. I think you can do that. What is it? Oh, it's $5,000 for 2 adults. That's right.
Yes,
that's right. That's family friendly. $5,000, and then for 3 adults and 1 child, it's $6,000. I guess if you have a throuple, 3 adults and 1 child, why would it not be 2 and 2? Probably more common, but okay. It's a 2-night stay. I don't know.
And it's only 100 rooms, and they can't sell that. I mean, this. So what this article is quick to point out is that like, you can just look, because with Disney, the way Disney does everything now, you pre-book, you have to use a calendar, you have to plan your date, whether you're going to the park or doing this shit. So you can like pull up the calendars and look at what's available. And they're saying almost every day in August, September, October, November, and December is available. There are still voyages in June and July too, including a number of weekends.
According to this SF Gate article,
most Disney stuff, for comparison, by the way, like fills up immediately. Like the Halloween, like the Halloween stuff that you can do at the park and all that. That shit goes up months and months in advance, and it's done.
Who's got $5,000 to blow on 2 days? Not even a full week. 2 days. 2 days. Reviews have been generally positive with some caveats. Most reviewers noted people who aren't willing to let go of self-consciousness and engage fully in the storylines probably won't find the experience worth it. Well, I mean, I guess that's the reason you want to do it. You want to do the stories. What if you get there and like these storylines suck or they're hokey or I feel weird being forced to play act this garbage?
I absolutely would. And that's the thing. I think this is one of those things that sounds cool to a lot of like fans right up until the point they're like, would I actually do this? And they're like, no, wait a second. That sounds dumb.
Lodgings are small and only have windows looking out onto a screen replicating outer space. That's great. That's great. I'd rather do a Star... You know what? Fuck it. I would do a good Star Trek version of this because you got the holodeck, you got the way forward, great bar thing that looks great. Whoopi Goldberg's hanging out
With
there.
all of the Bandai pair matches on the table.
Is that what those things are?
Yeah, it's the little pyramids that are on the tables.
Oh,
they're actually Bandai electronic games from the late 70s.
Play some 3D chess. Like that seems more scenic to me, being on the Enterprise, being on the flagship. All right, I want to create a war of Star Trek versus Star Wars nerds now, but all right, that's kind of interesting, Ian. But what were you saying, Ian? What's always open?
Yeah, it's always open.
UltimateNintendo.com is always open.
It's always open.
I rained on Ian's parade. It's always open for certain NES Super Nintendo guidebooks.
It's open right now.
You can get the Major Combat Yoshi print.
It's a nice print, glossy. Nice paper stuff.
Hey, if you checked
Support
out
our buddy,
you checked out the Obi-Wan trailer. Yoshi worked on 3 shots on that trailer. There, that's the quality of Yoshi's handiwork right there. There's only 10 prints left right now. It was limited to 22 prints. You can get that at ultimatentendo.com.
There's only 10 left.
It's only 10.
Is
left.
it a Miko 10 or a real 10?
A Miko 10 would be there's a 10,000 left there. And then we're blowing out the shirts. They're on sale like 30% off at ultimatentendo.com.
Just buy them. Buy the small one, cut out the image, put it on your jean jacket, make a patch.
There's medium as well for one of the shirts left. And I'll be on Twitch, twitch.tv/ContraCode Wednesday nights, watching the best of 70s, 80s, 90s commercials, getting close to episode 100 where Ian might peek in a couple weeks there.
Possible.
It's possible there. It's possible. News out of Ukraine, Crix, who they make the EverDrives. We got an update that he's safe. They're safe there.
They fled to Spain.
Yes, part of the team is still in the Ukraine there. The update, I will do the update here. The first update was just, I'm okay, we are safe on March 9th there. Today I took off my clothes for the first time in days. I will not sleep on the floor or in the car today. But a couple weeks before that, we were okay so far, battles in the city every day, and then went radio silent for like 10 days. So people are like, oh, what's going on? And the latest statement was this. I'm with my family currently in Spain. Spain is one of my favorite countries. I already had a Spain residence card, so choice was obvious. From time to time, I lived and worked in Spain, so some of my products partially designed in Spain. I had a release from the military service, so I was able to cross the border, but rest of the team still in Ukraine. There is a lot of families feeded by the EverDrive business. They leave their homes, they lost income, but this situation isn't unique just for our team. Whole country in such troubles, but we are all still alive. At least this days, it is enough to be happy. I like to say a few words about what happened in my city early in the morning on February 24th. My wife woke me up and said that the war had begun. I heard explosions somewhere in the distance and cannot believe the reality of what was happening. First days, Russians entered the city a few times, but they were eliminated. One of the columns of Russian military equipment was destroyed not far from my home, about 1 kilometer from me. Then their jets started bombing infrastructure objects to leave city without warm electricity and water. Heat. Then they start bombing residential areas, killing civilians. When strong explosions were heard somewhere nearby, my 2-year-old daughter said, "What are these pops? I'm scared, Papa." So this will give you an idea of someone firsthand what's happening. And obviously still bad. Russians are bogged down. Hopefully there's some diplomatic solution to this soon. But I'm shaking my head figuring out what the hell is going to happen here because I don't know. I don't have any answers to it.
Yeah, no, it's...
But it has been a more indiscriminate shelling of civilians and things like that happening the past couple weeks because when Russia realizes this is going to be a cakewalk...
They're pushing it further and further.
Yeah, they got desperate really quickly when they realized the Ukrainians were going to actually fight back there. So, yeah. Something we brought up in the fall has finally gone through. Atari's acquisition of MobyGames, the huge, biggest game database on the web, is complete at this point. That's a thing. We postulated back in the fall, Ian. I have no clue what Atari looks to do with this.
I have no idea what Atari has to do with this. We even contemplated making it like a poll topic, and I was like, we can't because I have no idea what Atari really hopes to do with this.
They spent $1.5 million buying it. Obviously, the site has ads on it, web ads. Obviously, a lot of people go to it for
worst
research.
case scenario would be shutting it down. Second worst case scenario would be privatizing it.
But I mean, like, why? Like, what?
Charging.
What would Atari do with this information, though?
Right, I have no idea.
How they monetize
just hope
it.
to make I charge for membership, but no one's going to. They just find that information elsewhere.
If someone would like mirror the site, they'd like just get all the info and just mirror
Yeah, no,
it at
fuck
that
you,
point.
Atari. Yeah, I have no idea what Atari like. That acquisition didn't make any sense to me.
Originally created by three high school friends, this was back in '99. This isn't the first time it was sold. It controversially changed hands in 2010 when GameFly bought it. Remember GameFly?
I do.
The fucking monthly service. Mm-hmm. And they redesigned the whole site before it was purchased again in 2013 by Jeremiah Freiholt, who quickly, come on, ad, that's how you make your money, a pop-up ad, who quickly reverted most of the unpopular changes. So if GameFly bought it and realized we can't monetize it, maybe there's something that happens to Atari. They have to sell it in a few years, maybe at a loss when they realize we can't do anything with this. I mean, Atari hasn't been the smartest in their strategies the past few years.
Nothing Atari ever does really makes a whole lot of sense. Speaker hats?
Well, those never got made, but I think
No, I'm fairly certain those got made.
Oh, the watches never got made.
Yeah, the watches never got made.
But that was
Speaker
just
hats did.
but that was a license deal. They weren't manufacturing those. But the VCS they manufactured and came out to a thud. I don't know if they actually made money on that or not. There was lawsuits with that. Remember? Allegedly didn't pay their original engineer and things like that. Obviously, the fucking casino idea and the cryptocurrency shit. So the only thing they've done was with these recharge games is it's been the few recharge games with Centipede and Breakout and Asteroids. That's in the spirit of Atari. Because you realize Atari doesn't have many IPs worth of fucking damn.
No, and this is what I always. This goes back to like this was always one of my favorite things that would happen at the game store. Someone would come in and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I love Atari, Pac-Man, and Galaga." And I'm like, I'm like, you get Surround and 3D Tic-Tac-Toe and Adventure,
which was nothing.
Warlords. I like Warlords. Warlords is great. But all the best Atari shit in this
Activision or Namco or
all the best Atari shit.
Party.
Well, no, but all the best Atari stuff uses trackballs, spinners, or some odd input method.
Sure. People confuse the time period with Atari.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But all the best stuff that you can play with just a normal joystick was Namco, Sega, etc.
While people are understandably skeptical about the sale so far, Atari and Freiholtz have been saying the right things. Here's a quote. MobyGames community has played a sustained and important role in the documentation, celebration, and preservation of video games, and supporting MobyGames allows us to give back to the community and continue to its growth and success, said Atari CEO Wade Rosen. It's important to Atari that MobyGames retains every bit of its integrity, and we're committed to supporting the site in ways that improve the experience for both contributors and users. So if you take that at face value, we're going to keep the site the same. We bought it to get the ad revenue and make the money back over years and years. How much? I mean, I guess. You just hope that Atari doesn't mismanage it and then end up selling it to that fuck who bought a Nintendo Age and shut it down and shut down the, you know what I mean? Like someone like that.
Right.
You hope it doesn't like go into someone's bad hands who just shutters it.
Yeah.
Like that.
That's what I'm saying. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah. So this is also going to be community driven. It has to be because the community is responsible for the site's database. The same thing with Nintendo Age. It was the community that put that database together, and then it was sold and then shuttered, even though they fucking lied about, oh, it's a lie. No, fuck you. That was always your plan, asshole. You slime ball there. What about this GameCube mod, Ian, real quick?
Yeah, so this GameCube mod is interesting. It's based on a fake GameCube, a fake portable GameCube. Fake portable GameCube. Fake portable GameCube mod.
Don't give Manscaped new ideas, Ian.
Jesus. went around the internet a long time ago. And this is just neat because someone made it real, brought it to life, and it's cute. I love the way it looks. It looks like a little Game Boy Advance SP, but it has the tiny disk drive in the front of it, which I think is the coolest and cutest little addition to it. Folds open and closed. Yeah, that thing had been floating around the internet for 15 years.
Huh? The fake? You mean the fake?
Yeah, the fake one.
Render.
So they talk about how when they first saw it, their immediate thought was, "I need this." Ginger of Oz is the person who decided to make this a reality. They tracked down the creator. Well, they tried to track down the creator of the original image, but couldn't. They used a Wii motherboard instead of a GameCube one. The GameCube motherboard uses more powerful than the Wii, and it's more difficult to cut down to size. So the Wii motherboard made a lot more sense.
Makes sense.
This portable version doesn't feature a working disk drive, as it would have made the system significantly larger. However, Ginger does include a slot for a disk to be entered, even if they don't actually do anything in relation.
Just for funsies.
Just for funsies.
So you put some flash drive.
So yeah, you just play off a flash drive. So yeah, that makes sense.
It's still adorable.
Yeah, very cute. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine the whirring that would go around with the disc in and it's playing.
Just put it on the table and watch it vibrate itself off.
And it just start heating up, and you're like, oh, geez. It's like a microwave oven. Speaking of heating, sweatshirt's coming off. You're layered for March. It's almost spring. Yeah. I forgot to spring my clocks forward. Forgot to mention that over the weekend. I thought for some reason it was next week. It was this Sunday.
Yeah, but your phone should have done it automatically.
No, but yeah, that's true. The car one's always the one where you do it right away or wait 5 months.
You just wait 6 months and it fixes it, yeah.
Or maybe it's fixed for some people now and then it goes back. Yeah. Can we get rid of it in the fall? We're 28. I look this up every year. 28 states have passes to say we're fucking done with this. We're done with going back and forth. Keep it the way it is now. Darker in the morning, and then let it be lighter at night. It's better. Everyone wins. It's so antiquated, going back and forth. Obviously, Arizona doesn't do it. They're out with it. But I think within 10 years, we'll be fucking done with this shit of switching it. It's insane. It's insane. Most countries don't do this shit. I think I was
reading something actually that California already voted on not doing it anymore.
28 states have already voted to say we are done with this shit.
Right. Yet we're still doing it.
But because you have to get everyone else on board.
I know. You got to get everyone on board with it.
Yeah.
So
imagine what happened when they first did all the time zones, how they coordinate that back whenever they did that in the fucking 1800s or whatever, whenever they started doing that.
Telegraph.
The telegraph. Okay, we're starting this.
Yeah.
Send the telegraph. Oh, that was a great technology, telegraph.
Reggie is no longer at GameStop. Hasn't been for about a year, but he talked a little bit about it.
I was here for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. I talked about it at South by Southwest over the weekend. He's diplomatic, but it does not sound like he enjoyed his time there at all. At all. So, Ryan Cohen invested big on the Chewy guy invested big on the aging retailer, eventually seizing control of its board, signaling to backers that GameStop would be transformed into a mostly online business. Reggie says the perspective was, Reggie, we want to keep the team small, so it's going to be myself, meaning Ryan Cohen, and a few of the people that I brought on board who, by the way, don't know this business, don't understand the players, et cetera, et cetera.
He didn't say that, but
that's what Reggie is saying. Basically, Ryan came in and said, so Fils-Aimé says, I took that as code as thank you, but we really don't want any other ideas, and for me, that was not acceptable.
Yeah, because remember, AutoZone guy got Reggie involved. AutoZone guy was a traditional retail CEO from AutoZone, and then obviously we said, well, this isn't going to work. But then Chewy.com guy who sold it off for a ton, he's an expert on internet retail, and he's a much younger guy and much more up to date with tech, and he took over the company slowly but surely and pushed out AutoZone guy and now trying to do stuff like the NFT shit that we talked about, which we gave it too much credit originally. Like, oh, this is going to be for buying and selling of digital games. Like, oh, no, maybe not. It's just for NFTs. It's just NFTs itself.
Yeah.
And just for bullshit. And so Reggie doesn't belong in that. That's not why he's there. Obviously, that's not his expertise. And so they probably said, well, we don't have any need for you, Reggie. We're going to do our NFT bullshit.
Yeah, he said he had strong opinions on what the company needed to do to turn around, and no one was interested in hearing them. This Kotaku article by Ethan Gotch continues to say that they haven't really shown any game plan as to how they plan on turning around. Here it is. A year later, it is still not clear how Cohen will bring back GameStop. The inflated stock price has been trending down ever since November. Recently fell below 100 for the first time in a year. That's not good. Recent earnings have remained weak. Of course they have. And they're definitely not investing in the stores, the employees, because every store is basically claiming that it's basically understaffed and overworked. And I mean, like we've said a billion times, GameStop doesn't have a viable, unless they transition to entirely online sales and become a skeleton of them, they're what they once were. GameStop does not have a viable path forward in this market. It's just a non-necessary outlet at the size that it exists.
Yeah,
it's too big to survive.
They got a second life via being a meme stock and selling stock,
right?
And getting tons of
getting money from an entirely different source than what you actually sell is not going to keep you afloat for very long.
Well, no, especially since the reason you got that money is because the company was in a tailspin.
Yes,
and that's why it became a meme stock because
it was overshorted. The stock was bad enough.
It was overshorted.
Yeah,
because everyone's like, this is ridiculous, and so you can try to spin that all you want, but that's the reality of it. You can't lose hundreds of millions of dollars each year and say, oh, this is great. Because you see some people saying, oh, all these naysayers about GameStop. It's like, because it was losing money every fucking year and the digital landscape has taken over just about, which is GameStop's not involved with. So they're trying to throw money at it, obviously. But when you see that NFT announcement and investments like that, you're like, someone like Reggie's being like, well, that has nothing to do with selling games traditionally. And what are we doing? And I'm not saying Reggie could have helped turn this around. I'm not. But Reggie probably had some interesting ideas to either try to rebrand it or try to get them on some sustainability path that's not this that they're doing now. I'll take Reggie over Chewy Guy on this. Do you agree? Like, I would be interested in hearing out what Reggie would have to say.
Yeah, no, I would too.
So, yeah. There's only so many times where you can try to bank on the holiday season to get your money up, especially, but like we're in the middle of a console generation right now, the middle of it. So the sales slow typically, and again, there's less and less physical game sales to happen. So you're relying on almost entirely on console sales at this point, correct? That's a lot of it.
Consoles and tchotchke bullshit, pops, Pokemon cards, T-shirts.
That's not moving the needle to keep all these stores open.
No,
as much.
Absolutely not.
Speaking of an expert in the space, just like Reggie Fils-Aimé, Michael Pachter, analyst in the loosest sense of the word.
I want to know how this guy keeps his job. What is the industry that he predicts correctly? Because it's not video games.
I remember we brought up Michael Pachter in the past for a few reasons. I looked up his a lot of these analysts have a record, like a win-loss record of good predictions. He was 50-50 when I looked it up a few years ago. Literally a fucking coin flip whether or not you're correct. That's not a good analyst if you're as good as a coin flip to me.
Absolutely not.
But Pachter has come out. He got big because for some reason Game Trailers decided to give him a fucking show. And here's a guy in a suit talking about video games we feel more important because he's a guy into fucking securities that's talking. I mean, that's literally it. They plucked him out of fucking nowhere to do it. They did. But he was their quote-unquote tech expert, and he's made some awful predictions surrounding the video game industry. My favorite one from a year and a half ago was that Nintendo was stupid for having their Switch be a hybrid. They were stupid for doing that, he said. They should just focus in on it being a handheld.
Yeah, he said that they only should have done the Lite.
And if they'd done that, Nintendo would be out of the console business by now or closer to it if they had done that.
Sure. Or certainly wouldn't be in the positive position.
They wouldn't have sold over 100 fucking million of them in 5 years. They would not have. One of the many people that thought they knew better what Nintendo was doing with that. He also said, before we get into this, one of my favorite things is that the Amico was going to be the hot tech story of 2020.
It's going to be the tech story of 2020, and it's entirely feasible that they could sell 1 million units in the first year.
1 million units in the first year. And I think at the time I said, put any price on that, and I will take that bet, and I will give you odds on that. 1 million. So besides those disqualifying statements of being any sort of analyst worthy of anything, he said the PlayStation will basically be gone within 10 years, and it will cease to exist.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that he says, as we know it, and sure, maybe video games as we know it will be different. They are changing all the time, but PlayStation's not going anywhere. Microsoft is making themselves look like they're in a pretty good position. I don't think they're going anywhere either. But let's not forget that currently Sony is outselling. I mean, it's just a dumb fucking thing to say that the number one system being sold right now is not going to exist. You know, they're not going to exist in 10 years. They'll probably get 8 years at least out of this system lifespan, and I don't see them stopping systems with this one.
PS5, as of February 1st, is ahead by 6 million units. They've sold almost 18 units in 14 months, and Series X/S has sold under 12. So it's far ahead.
Yeah. I do feel like at some point, you know, these things are going to continue to more and more just look like home computers, so that might change. But yeah, Sony is not doomed, as he says. There's no doom here.
Again, this is a person, we always bring this up. The same thing with Google Stadia, where you assume everyone's tech is the same everywhere in the world, and the infrastructures are all the same. So it's like,
right.
Video games is not just North America and Europe, and even Japan. There's plenty of areas in the world
all over
that are still developing. There's a ton of people in India, for example. That's a market that's probably still on the come up, where it's going to take still a lot of time for their infrastructure to get to where places in Asia are or North America. So you're going to need to sell consoles for a good amount of time still. Like you said, whether it's going to be more computers, people are going to need hardware. They're not going to be able to just be cloud. It's not going to be 2025, Ian, everywhere it's just cloud gaming. No, that ain't happening.
Right.
It's not happening. Even in the U.S., you can't pull that off. In the U.S., you can't get great, fiber optic internet in a lot of parts of the U.S. So you're going to sell consoles still. You are.
Yeah. I guess the real thing what I would really say is I think it's going to get more homogenous as time goes on. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who still believe in the console wars and think companies hate making money to, prove a point or something. But I think we'll probably... I don't think it's entirely out of the question that we'll see Game Pass on a Sony system in the next 5 years. And at that point, it really does just become, what, do you prefer Coke or Pepsi?
If the money's good enough, Sony would say, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Give us whatever, 50% of it, and whatever makes sense. They would do it. They realize, they see which way the wind's blowing and be like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. We'll still have our PlayStation service, but if you want the additional one, sure. And like you said, it'll just be like the same consoles at that point.
But yeah, I don't think this guy's ever said anything worth paying attention to in the video game space, at least.
Plus, I think they'll come to the point where especially Sony, they're going to be like, well, we don't have the money that Microsoft has. We can't keep keeping up with these acquisitions. They just can't.
Right.
They just can't. They're like 100. Microsoft's 100 times bigger than Sony. So it's like you just can't keep up with that. So yeah, it's just one of those things that happens every year and a half where people are reminded this guy exists and he has awful fucking takes.
Yep.
That's about it.